Whew. Wow, finally, what a day. This is project operations and PSA from PSA to project operations, and the room is like 3/5 full. Are you certain you're in the right auditorium? All right, I'm being sarcastic. All right, so welcome everyone. My name is Antti Pajunen. I come all the way from Finland, and for the next about, I'd say 45 minutes, we're going to talk about project operations and how to actually move from project service automation to project operations. Now, the interesting question, who here has implemented or is implementing either PSA or ProjOps as a consultant? Don't be shy, hands up. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Awesome. Who here is a project operations user? Who just uses project operations, either as a power user or just as a consultant? So we have a couple of other hands. Who has no idea what project operations or PSA is? Same people who implement. I love the sarcasm. All right. Oop, did I break it? Because it's saying no signal. I should have turned it. I'm trying to get this somehow in a way that I can see the next slide so that I wouldn't have to kind of look over my shoulder, but I guess that's not going to work. So first off, thank you all the sponsors. Without sponsors, we would not be having this conference. This is a community conference. It means it is not pay to play. It is free, and with free community conferences, we really need sponsors to make these things happen. These cost an enormous amount of money. We need volunteers. If these guys wouldn't be sponsoring this event, we would not be having this. That is just how it works when it is a free community conference. So again, my name is Antti Pajunen. I come all the way from Finland. I'm a BizApps MVP. They gave me that blue MVP badge for, blogging and blogging and talking about project operations and PSA. I've been working with project products, project service automation and PSA and whatnot since pretty much the summer of 2016 when PSA's version 1 came out. And I know someone here in the audience has been working with PSA pretty much for as long since its inception, and it's been a strange ride, so to say. And it's become a product that is not only just something that is very unique and first to the entire Dynamics platform. I'm going to explain that in a few slides. But it's also one of the applications and first-party products that is probably, I would argue, the most misunderstood from a purpose and context point of view. But we're actually not going to talk about the purpose and context of PSA or project operations. What we're going to talk about is how do we move from PSA to project operations? What are sort of the steps to do? When is that going to be possible? And then I'm going to have a really, really short demo, actually not about upgrading PSA to project operations, because my intention for this session was the end of last year, when the upgrade should have been possible, and it's not still quite there. So I kind of had to improvise, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to look at a scenario of moving from a project management tool like Project for the Web or Project Online into project operations by migrating projects. So I'm going to do a short project migrating demo. And with that, if you want to hear more about the means of actually doing such migrations and what are the tools and services you have to use, Sebastian is going to have a session. This guy right here is going to have a session tomorrow. What time is your session tomorrow? 11. So that is a great session. It's going to be better than this, so attend that session. All right, so what is project operations? And a lot of you know this, but I do kind of have to start from the very basics in case there is someone here who has no understanding and idea of what this is. So I'm going to explain the very basics in a few slides, and then we're going to cover the sort of the upgrade process. And even though these images are pretty much images by Microsoft, it makes no sense for me to recreate their images. I want to try and explain this in my own terms, not in product marketing terms or not in terms that are on Microsoft slide decks, but more in a way that I see it based on the implementation experience that I have with PSA and project operations. So the project operations application is really a culmination of 3 different technologies. Project for the Web, which is Microsoft's standalone project management tool for accidental project managers. No pun intended, or maybe pun intended, that's the way that they actually sell it. It's for accidental PMs. The other part of project operations is what used to be project service automation. So it's that application on Dataverse, on customer engagement, that actually allows you to kind of run front-end capabilities from basically project sales management to project delivery, and then all the way to pro forma invoicing. And the third part of project operations these days, and here's the trick, you might have these two, the one on the left, PSA, and the Microsoft project, and kind of leave finance out in some cases, but really if we think of the entire application and really that platform story, that hero story, Dynamics 365 Finance is actually part of that, or rather Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, its capabilities. So it is a culmination of essentially three different products. And that is, that sounds interesting, that is interesting. It also provides us with interesting challenges that we get to solve. And I'll talk a bit more about those challenges and what are the sort of the implementation methodologies in a few slides. Without going deeper into what project operations does, I do want to emphasize my point of view. This is my session, so I get to say how I think freely. I don't get paid. Microsoft, I don't know anything to Microsoft. Microsoft doesn't know anything to me. So project operations really is a tool for professional services organizations, period. For professional services organizations to manage a professional services business. Think of consultancies. So who here is a consultant? Raise your hands again. So we got about pretty much everyone's a consultant. Think of your daily business. You deliver something for a customer. We all have to do time entries, which we all love so much because they're just the best things ever, and we always remember to do them on time and submit them by 4 p.m. on a Friday. And at the end of the month, when the end of the month is a Monday. And so if you think of your business, then what you do in your business is exactly what project operations is for. And saying period, that's where I want to emphasize. This is not for a company who manufactures stuff. This is not for a company that deals with tangible goods. All right? You might make it work for that. It is not for that. I always say that, if someone gives me something for manufacturing project operations, I run, because I've never seen it successfully implemented in such a case. And that said, professional services organizations, that is the focus. So now if we think of, where does project operations really sit in the biz apps, the entire Microsoft Business Applications landscape? Well, there's different ways of approaching this. One approach could be from a licensing point of view. And actually, that licensing point of view really dictates where it actually is. And from a licensing point of view, whereas Project service automation was licensed as a customer engagement application, so essentially a CRM application. Project operations is an operations application, which essentially means it's an ERP application. So it sits in finance and operations when it comes to, SKU-wise. So it's an ERP product. And with it being ERP product, you can pretty much be very certain that ERP functionalities and that ERP story is what drives it. That is the driver. It's not the customer engagement side and its logic and that technology on the CE side. It is an ERP product, and that's where the product team is pushing it as an ERP product. Now, if we look at from a technical point of view, this is where it gets complex, because I just said that it's an ERP product. Well, yeah, it doesn't actually have to be an ERP product. So we got different kinds of deployment, implementation deployment methodologies. We can implement project operations on CE only. So only in CRM. It's installed exactly as PSA and any other, CE application. It sits on CE and that's it. Nothing to do with F&O or any of the other ERPs. Then on the other side of the coin, it can be F&O only. So nothing to do with CE, everything to do with F&O. So just in F&O. Essentially, if you're, who here has an ERP background? Who here deals with F&O? All right, so we got a couple. Not too many, but a couple. So this is, by the way, usually how the demography of the audience is. We have a few F&O people usually in the crowd, with the majority having a CE background. So this is a pattern. So from that F&O point of view, it is essentially classic project management and accounting in F&O, rebranded through a SKU, through new licenses as project operations. So it's either or one or the other side. Now, the middle ground, which is that hero deployment, that story that Microsoft is, selling and promoting and pushing, it's the one we want to implement, it's the one we want to sell, it's where from a project point of view, where the big bucks are, is that integrated story. And the integrated story means that it is a genuine combination of CE and F&O. So it is essentially both. How is it integrated? That's technical, and that's beside the point. But the point actually here is that from a technical point of view, this is genuinely the first business applications product or application that is truly a platform play application. So this leverages the entire platform natively, right? So it's not a flimsy integration between Sales and Business Central. It is truly a homogeneous platform play application. Does it always feel that way and seem that way? No, but it is a long road and it's a work in progress. That is the direction where we're going. And one example of that is, and just an example, is that Microsoft is moving that entire deployment into a single deployment experience on Power Platform Admin Center and letting go of LCS. So it is genuinely and truly becoming a platform play story. And the first one of its kind at that. So to really twist it for you, because this is one of those things where I get, pretty much the most questions from customers and consultants. Do you want to twist it? So it can be F&O, just F&O. It can be CE and only CE, or it can be F&O and CE. Is this absolutely clear to everyone, or do I need to explain it again? It is, great. So really, this is something where the majority of questions, I think, on the community forums and whatnot come from. Like, people don't understand what this really is because it is groundbreaking in the sense that we've not had an application like this, genuine platform application like this before, and now we do. So again, it is a genuine, first-of-a-kind, purpose-built platform application leveraging the C and the ERP sides. Now, some considerations around licensing and upgrading. So we kind of now get to the main topic of doing a PSA to project operations upgrade. First off, why do we have to upgrade from PSA to project operations? Well, the thing is, PSA is project service automation is deprecated, so it is going away. And by 2024, I forget the month, maybe some of you remembers, maybe it was October, 2024, the PSA is going to essentially die. So we do need to upgrade from PSA to project operations pretty soon at some point. It is not an option to stay in PSA. You can't go around that. And when it comes to licensing considerations, the biggest driver here is really to consider when as an organization, your PSA licenses expire. That's the first thing to do. Check when your PSA licenses or your CE, D365 CE plan licenses expire. Because when they expire, you don't have use rights to PSA anymore. Your use rights are gone. And that's the thing. Project operations is actually backfilled into the CE plan license, as well as PSA licenses. So with a PSA license or a CE plan license, you're able to use project operations. It's backfilled into that. But one thing that customers don't really understand is that it doesn't go the other way. With project operations licenses, you're not able to run PSA. Well, technically, I guess you are, because there's really no good license enforcement technically on the platform. But, if KPMG hits you with an audit, then you're screwed. So if you have project operations licenses, you cannot run PSA. And then one thing, especially if you're, who here is from the mid-market segment, SMBs, SMEs, about 1/3 maybe. So one thing to keep in mind is project operations does come with a minimum purchase quantity of 20 licenses. So 20 is the minimum. There's actually a special promotion on CSP around licensing, and I was trying to get that information in, but none of the CSP vendors seem to know what that actually means. So there is some sort of special SKU available that allows you to buy project operations and CSP for less than 20. That information seems to be almost impossible to actually get clarification on. But, in a nutshell and kind of moving down the line, 20 licenses is that minimum that you need. Yeah?
Do you want a bit of insight into that?
If you got some insight, then yes.
There's a workaround. You can go back on the slide.
Mm-hmm.
So that statement's factually true. Minimum quantity is 20 base licenses. There's no minimum quantity on the attached licenses. So you can attach less than 20 to a higher priced base SKU. So if you buy sales premium, 5 off, you could attach 5 project off licenses.
Yes.
That's the only way that I know. There's no promotion that I'm aware of.
Yes. So first, and this is actually where we have some differences between if we're talking about CSP and EA. Because, for example, EA has a mix and match. CSP doesn't have a mix and match in that. But yes, that is, theoretically, that could be a workaround for that. As long as she actually says it in, yes. And as long as there's that check mark in the licensing guide that allows you to put an attach on a sales premium, that's easy to find out. That's a really good point. So then if we think of the actual upgrade phases, so we've kind of, and again, the reason I talk about the licensing considerations is that's where there is a huge amount of ambiguity. Like, what do we need to have to be able to upgrade, and what are sort of the moving parts around that? Now, if we think of the actual upgrade phases, so when can we upgrade from PSA to project operations? We have basically a 3-phased upgrade process. with phase 1 is actually generally available right now. So if you are, and what that means is if you are using project service automation and you are basically using it in a very limited capacity, which would mean that you're not using any project tasks. You're basically using the application, but you're not building any project plans. No project plans. That's when you can do a self-service update from PSA to project operations simply by going to PPAC, Power Platform Management Center, going to Solutions, and clicking on project operations, and that'll upgrade your PSA to project operations. But again, if you have any project tasks in your environment, if you're using project tasks, then this upgrade phase is not applicable. Then you have to wait for phase 2. And phase 2 is going to be GA in August. And essentially that means that if you are using PSA to build and manage projects, then you have to wait until August to be able to do that upgrade. So again, if you are considering that upgrade, what I would emphasize is look at those licenses that you have. When are those licenses going to expire? And then realize the fact that if you're using project tasks, then August is the soonest when you can do it. If you're big enterprise, then maybe there's something special that the product team can get you into, but that would be something that would not be generally available. And to be honest, I'm not even sure if they will do anything like that for big enterprise in any case. So phase 3 then is something that happens in the fullness of time. That is not GA yet, and there is really no date for when that's going to happen. Phase 3 in the upgrade path is for WBS limits that are outside the current constraints. So, for example, the maximum allowed number of project tasks, that is going to get an increase. That's going to get an increase fairly soon. So this phase 3 would be for those edge case scenarios where you need, like, let's say 2,500, you have 2,500 tasks. Right now, you're not able to do an upgrade from PSA to project operations if you would have that many tasks. Phase 3 would be for those edge cases. So that is one thing to consider. If you are, again, and if you're professional services, I highly doubt that you have 2,500 tasks. So it does sound like manufacturing. And if you're in that boat, then realize that phase 2, you're not going to be able to upgrade in phase 2. So those are the phases. That's how we get to do the upgrade. Now, one of the big questions that I get from customers is, well, how big of an effort is it? Who here has done a PSA upgrade from version 2 to version 3 back in the day? Oh, we got a couple, yeah. So version 2 to version 3 upgrade was, maybe it was simple, but there were definitely some caveats to getting that to work. The thing with the PSA to project operations upgrade is that is really automated in the sense that you install the project operations solution, and then from that point on, you're on board project operations. That's the only thing you have to do. You just upgrade the solution in PPAC. However, when it comes to actually project tasks and projects, the actual projects are not automatically upgraded to project operations. So you have to actually go in to actually a project row, project record, and manually upgrade your projects after you've moved the solution from PSA to project operations. The upgrade itself takes about 4 to 6 hours. It's not the fastest, but solution installation can sometimes take time. So it's about 4 to 6 hours that it takes to actually install the project operations solution. And the phase 2 version of that I doubt it's going to be any different or much different. This is, I'm theorizing here because it's not GA, but the process is the same. And then we just go in and we upgrade the projects themselves. So some additional considerations to make are that the data model in project operations, it is fairly similar to PSA. And, fairly similar gives a bit of leeway. You might consider or have a different opinion that it's completely different. I think it's actually fairly similar to PSA. And the biggest difference really with project operations is that project for the web is again infused. So everything you know from PSA when it comes to that project management experience, that's going to go away. All those plugins and that lack of Gantt chart and that, all of that beauty in PSA, that's going to go away. And project operations is going to have project for the web infused in it. So that is really the biggest difference, in addition to some new features that we do not have in PSA. So actually, those do have an impact as well. Now, the biggest thing here definitely is that that project for the web, that project management piece does have hard restrictions on how we can create, update, and delete what are called schedulable tables. Schedulable tables being, wow, that's a mouthful for a non-native speaker. Those are essentially project task dependency, and so on, and blah, blah, blah. So those you can't just go in Dataverse and just create net new. You actually have to use what are known as the project schedule APIs, which are special APIs that you need to call to be able to actually do cut operations on those schedulable tables. And that's, I think, Sebastian, that's your session tomorrow. And again, definitely attend that session for more insights into the project schedule API. Now, the good thing is that there is going to be, I don't know when this is going to be, but they're getting there. There is going to be a public testing website, a public website where you can test the project schedule APIs. So right now, as of today, if you want to test them, you need to either use, for example, Power Automate, C#, JavaScript, or some other fancy flicky devish method to actually interact with the schedule APIs. They are nearly a pro code approach. Actually, if you really want to implement them, they are a pro code approach, but you can kind of fill your way with Power Automate with schedule APIs. So before those are generally available, if you want to learn more about schedule APIs, in addition to Sebastian's session, check out Docs. Docs has a fairly good article on schedule APIs. Or check out my blog. I have maybe 3 or 4 blog posts on how to use schedule APIs with Power Automate. Why Power Automate? Well, that's because I'm not a dev. So now the nice thing. What is that process of actually upgrading those projects then? So what we do first is we go in and we upgrade the solution, like I just mentioned. So we install project operations. The next thing we do when that solution is installed, we need to upgrade those actual project rows in the database from PSA to project operations. And let me just click back. So what we do is we select a project, and then we select a future button in the command bar or ribbon that upgrades the actual project row in the database. So we're going to have a confirmation for the actual upgrade. What's going to happen is that confirmation is actually going to call the schedule APIs in the background and do that project upgrade from PSA to project operations. And this supposedly is going to last a few minutes. That probably depends on the amount of project tasks you have. So if you have 2,000 tasks, then it'll probably take longer. If you got 50 tasks, it should be about 2 minutes based on simply what has been told so far. So after the upgrade, you are pretty much all set. After you click that ribbon button, that upgrade goes through, you have a project operations viable project in project operations. So next, these are these nasty 3 or 4 slides where I get to say not possible, not possible, not possible a lot, unfortunately. And this is actually there's not too much clarity on how we can really, in what scenarios we can really do that upgrade. It's kind of information that you have to parse from different sources online and then just come up with that big picture of how things actually work. So if we think of the different scenarios, if we think of upgrading from PSA to Project Operations Lite, that is supported. That is that path of upgrading from PSA to Project Operations. Now, here's the shocker. Upgrading from Project Operations to Project Operations Integrated. Upgrading from PSA to Project Operations Integrated. So you're running PSA, and you're thinking, well, hey, now that I have those licenses that give me F&O on the side, well, let's just re-roll our ERP and go with the integrated deployment, moving from PSA to Project Operations. You're not going to be able to do that just now. So that is not supported. From PSA to integrated is not a supported scenario. And what's also not supported is moving from PSA to standalone project for the web. And the reason for that is because we're not able to install project for the web in a Dynamics environment. So I can see some people are scratching their heads like, what's going on here? So I'm going to say again, if you are using PSA and you want to move to project for the web, you cannot install project for the web in a Dynamics environment. It has to be a vanilla native Dataverse environment. So that's in essence, from moving from PSA to Project Operations, you have to use the light deployment. That's the path that we have. For integrated, I can't say when that's going to happen and be supported because there's no official date, but they are working on that. That's what I can say. They are working on that move from PSA to Project Operations Integrated. So that's going to happen very hopefully at some point in time, again, in the fullness of time. So let's look at the other side of the coin. Let's look at F&O. And before I go there, let me actually check how much time I got, because I don't have a watch. So I got about 8 minutes. That's going to be close. Let's see what happens. So for the F&O side, if we go from classic PMA to Project Operations Lite, then that would not be a supported scenario either. Well, that's actually pretty logical because you're moving from F&O to CE, so there's no connect there. One of the biggest unfortunate downsides is that if you want to move from classic PMA, so you've invested in F&O, you've spent your €500,000 or not, if not even more, on your F&O just a few years back, and you love classic PMA, it serves you well, it's aligned with your processes, and all is good. And now with project operations, you're excited, you're thinking that, hey, since I've already got F&O, the biggest bulk of the job is done, I want to use integrated. I want to go to project operations, get that full experience. You're not going to do that. Again, that's not possible, not possible. Like I said, these slides are very negative. I get to say not possible a lot. So officially moving from classic PMA to integrated is not supported. Officially, it is not supported. However, and you who come from F&O will probably understand more about the theoretical constructs of how this could be made. Theoretically, it is possible with customization work to move from classic PMA to integrated. It involves steps such as closing existing projects, doing reconfigurations for integration, migrating projects and their opening balances, and blah, blah, blah. Don't ask me more specifics about that because that's definitely uncharted territory. But theoretically, it is possible, as mentioned by the product team. And then if we then look at another story where we have PSA, which is integrated to F&O with data integrator, that sort of classic legacy way of integrating PSA with F&O using data integrator templates. There's not a supported approach for that either. And the reason for that is because you can only move from PSA to light deployment. If you want to move from a PSA F&O data integrator deployment to integrated, then again, that's not possible because PSA to light is only available. And again, project for the web constraints, if you want to move from project for the web, whether it's in default or sandbox or prod, if you want to move to project operations light, then that would not be a supported scenario either. However, what you could do is have a custom build that essentially takes all your projects in project for the web and project tasks, rolls them up, recreates them as basically custom tables, custom template tables in Dataverse, and then from those custom template tables, you would call the schedule APIs to migrate your projects. So that's actually something that I want to really, really quickly show. I think I have, the session's 45 minutes or 50, something like that. I think I have about 5 minutes. So that's something that I really, really quickly want to show. So let's see here. So again, what is the scenario? The scenario is that I have project for the web, and my organization wants to move from project for the web to PSA's light deployment. Now, despite project for the web being infused in project operations, those restrictions on the schedulable tables are going to present a problem. So in this example, what I have is I have my project for the web installed in default, which always pains me, but that's just how it usually is for project for the web. Organizations usually do tend to use that in default because that's where it goes the first time you fire up a project for the web in the Fluent UI or the React UI or whatever it is, the Office Green UI. So I have project for the web in default. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, I haven't created ribbon buttons for this for the sake of simplicity. What I'm going to get is I'm going to take the GUID of this specific project. Can you guys see this, or should I zoom in? Is it fine? Zoom in a little? All right. Any better? All right, cool. So I'm going to take the GUID of this specific project, and I am going to run a flow that says network error right here, whatever that means. I obviously have not done my sacrifices to demo gods, so let's see what happens. Am I connected? Yes, I'm connected. Let's do a refresh. Okay. Wi-Fi guest. Oh gosh. There is bad Wi-Fi. Let's the second one? Yeah, the TIC conferences? Yeah, I need the password. I think the password changes by floors. Oh, no, it's connected. Let's see if it, yeah. I actually did it, and yes. So this floor has the same password for it, I guess. So let's run this flow again. Let's try this again. So what I'm essentially going to do is this flow that is running it is taking all the information from this specific project. So the project, its team members, tasks, dependencies, and yada, yada, yada. And what it's doing is it is moving that data. It's getting that data and actually copying it across from Project for the Web in the default environment to a named project operations environment. And it's going to create a custom staging table. So it's actually going to stage the project, the tasks, the dependencies, team members, and resource assignments in staging tables in the target project operations environment. It's not doing checklists because that's too new. I haven't had time to add checklists to this. And when the copy operation is done, it actually does not take more than a few minutes or a few seconds. By the way, the only way we can do this is to use the legacy Dataverse connector in Flow, which has that environment selector, so we can't use the modern connector. So when we have these staging tables, what we're going to do next is we're going to take the GUID of the, what did I click? Right, let's try this again. We're going to take the GUID of the staging table, and we are going to run a flow that now in the project operations environment loops through, pretty much does the same. It loops through the staging tables, the project tasks, dependencies, and blah, blah, blah. And it calls the schedule APIs. And by calling the schedule APIs, it's going to actually create the same project that we had in the source environment. Now, we do have paid tools for this as well, but this is essentially a free approach. So it's one theoretical approach of actually making this work. Now, you could use this approach for Project Online as well. If you know the Project Online data model and you know what to get, you could get data from Project Online and convert those this way as well. So this is going to take a few minutes to run simply because the schedule APIs are not that fast. We kind of have to have checks and balances when we run the schedule APIs. So we have to wrap up before this flow is going to be done. But the end result is going to look, if we look at the project operations environment, it is going to be, it's going to be the same. So source and destination. So this is a means and a way of doing a migration from Project for the Web to project operations. So it's not all game over, and it's not all just not possible. Some things are possible. All right, so with that, I think we are at time. It's 10 of 5, and we have, I think, one more session before the end of the day. So closing comments. Take the slide deck from the app, go through the slides. If you have any questions, reach out, Twitter, LinkedIn, smoke messages, ask on the community forums, whatever way you can reach people in the community for PSA and project operations. We love to share and exchange information and knowledge. And again, carefully consider your licensing when that is expiring, and what is that migration use case that you specifically have before you promise that to your customer, or you as Mr. or Mrs. Customer think that it's possible to get upgraded. Think of that scenario before you commit to it. With that said, thank you. And I'm going to stay and mingle here.